coming here and listening to my presentation. My name is David Altimira, and I'm going to present a paper named Digitally Augmenting Sports, an Opportunity for Exploring and Understanding Novel Balancing Techniques. Here I'm going to talk about physical sports, game balancing. Game balancing, I mean this game adjustment that allow players with different skill levels to play together and feel challenged and hopefully more engaged. And we did that by using digital technology in order to explore novel ways of we can balance the game from the traditional ways. Game balancing is not something new. It has been studied and explored and applied in many games. Many of you probably have played Mario Kart, where the player that falls behind find 8 items that allows to speed up, or the player that is leading find the bananas that makes the car spin around, so implementing the rubber band effect. Many research has been applied. For example, we can see the Gauling work where allow players with different capabilities, for example, using a wheelchair, and players with an able-bodied player. So to play together, it shows some of the advantage of using game balancing. Mueller also explored how balancing can be applied in jogging, so allow players with different fitness levels, to show another advantage of a benefit of using game balancing to prevent overexertion, for example. All this research provides insights about how different game adjustments can provide different level of engagement, so that shows that it's important to understand and explore the impact of game adjustments, game balancing, and player engagement in order to understand how we can design better game balancing. One of the missing research gaps or missing work is that most of the prior work focuses on one type of game that is called parallel game. This game, each player does not bodily influence the other player, such as jogging. I can jog with an expert jogger, and I can still jog as I was alone if I want. In contrast, in a non-parallel game, each player influences the other player. I can play with the expert player, but I might not be able to return any ball. So game balancing might be needed to be designed differently in that case. If one of you is expert player play against me, you can give me a 10 points head start, and objectively the game in 11-point games, objectively the game can be balanced because you might score 11 points in a row. But the game, would that be fun? Probably not, because the game is not just about the final score or final outcome. It's about all the interactions that happen in between, all the interactions and actions that happen during the game. And game balancing in this type of games might need to moderate the influence of one player versus the other player, and that is what we try to achieve in this work. Here I show you a short video of how we try to do that by augmenting a table tennis game, using image projection technology in order to alter the playing surface area. Here also we use some tracking technology in order to detect where the ball hits on the table, in order to give feedback of the users of if the ball hits inside or outside, but also to evaluate some game dynamics, for example, the speed of the ball or the number of hits per point. So the less skilled player was allowed to hit in all the surface area, but the more skilled player only were allowed to hit on the projected area. So that if it hit outside that, lose the point. So in many sports, players or teams usually adopt different strategies. If you see in a soccer game, some teams might prefer to play having more possession of the ball and then to have more control of the ball. Other teams prefer to play more defensively and counteract. So a different strategy, there was not one strategy better than the other. Just that maybe some strategies might be more suitable to play against other teams. So why not use game balancing or game adjustment that change the strategy or the actions of each player in order to balance the game? And this is what we try to achieve here in this study. In one game adjustment, the corner condition, we place the playing surface area in one of the corners to encourage fast shots, but yet easier to predict and ready to counteract for the less skilled player. In the other, we place the playing surface area in the center of the net to encourage more defensive play. And we try to evaluate what is the experience of playing in these two type of adjustments. So the following research questions is the following one that we try to answer. How do game adjustment that modify players' performance impact on game balancing and player engagement? And this is the study where we define two basically independent variables, where one is what explained the table adjustment, the corner and the center, and the other we define the player skill status, the more skill and or the less skill. Prior to the experiment, we evaluate the player skill levels using a pre-questionnaire, and then we try to match each of the player according to, we match the players according to the skill level difference in order to maximize the skill level difference between each pair that come to participate. So we recruit 30 participants and we collect data about the player performance so that evaluate or validate our design of the games. We measure the speed of the ball, the type of strokes, the style of play of the players. For game balancing, we measure the win-loss ratio, the final difference of score, or the average number of hits per point. And then after each game played, we evaluate the player engagement using a questionnaire. We also use qualitative data. At the end of the experiment, we use interviews in order to assess which game adjustment players prefer more, and the reason behind that. Now here I will report the findings based on these three areas: game balancing, player engagement, and player performance. The results of player performance validate our expectations. The players in the center play more defensively, the ball moves slower, and the type of strokes were reported to be different between the other adjustment. Players reported this kind of tap over the net, kind of this type of strokes. In contrast, in the corner, players reported that they could smash, they could play like a real table tennis game. Here, what happened in game balancing? Here I'm showing a histogram in the center and corner conditions of the final difference score and the number of victories for each of the final difference score. You can also see the number of games that they were won for the more skilled player and the less skilled player. And the vertical line means the average difference of a score of the total games played for each of the game adjustments. Here, you notice that first one aspect that you will notice that the corner condition, the game became closer, significantly closer than the center condition. You see that the histogram was more spread across the different final differential score. Another thing that you notice is that in the corner condition, the more skilled player tended to win more times than the center condition. Why that happened? In order to understand why this happened, we have to understand how game balancing was achieved, how we help the less skilled player. In one, we help the less skilled player but commit game mistakes by reducing the playing surface area. And the other is by changing the style of play. In the center of condition, we change the style of play in a way that will help the less skilled player. And that's why we encourage more wins for this player. Here, if we look at player engagement, we saw no difference between the less skilled player between the two conditions, but the more skilled player tended to be more engaged in the corner. And the reason that they reported is because of the type of a stroke, the type of action its game adjustment afford. So, to conclude, I would like to highlight or to get more in depth about how the different methods we found here in this study of how we can balance the game through altering the player's performance, advantage of a disadvantage of each one. One way is we can encourage game mistakes or game errors. This has advantage that we don't rely on altering the style of play of the players, and this can suit different players with different taste of players' performance. And has a disadvantage that this does not necessarily moderate the influence of one player versus the other player. In this case, we can also opt for changing the style of play. This is useful because we can moderate how one player influences the other player by, in this case, table tennis, by encouraging a more defensive play. This helps the less skilled player to return the ball more easily. However, we have to take into account that by changing the actions or the performance of the players, we also can alter how the players are engaged in the game. And this also aligned with some prior work that also studied how different controllers or different controllers provide different levels of engagement of the players. So here, to conclude, I would like to summarize what we find here and then some future work. Here, we basically focus on non-parallel games. These games that one player influence the other player's performance, and we try to aim for how game design or game balancing could moderate this influence. We studied about different players' performance, changing the style of play, and we found that this can indeed be used for game balancing, and how you can alter the different actions or the different players' performance can indicate how the balance will be the game. But also changing the actions influence how the players are engaged with the game. So it's important to understand how we change these actions. Then future work can go directly to explore how how these two ways that we found how altering the player's performance could be used. For example, in this study, we explored two cases: one defensive, one aggressive. But what about some degree of style of play from more defensive to less defensive? How we can adjust that dynamically? How we can adjust, for example, different areas of playing surface areas, and how we can use both of these tools of game design in order to optimize the player engagement. And here I can show in the right picture two games that we explore after this experiment, where we adjust dynamically the playing surface area to encourage different degrees of mistakes. But also we adjust the playing surface area to adjust the different degrees of style of play, from more aggressive when the playing surface area was more at the edge of the farthest point from the table, to the more defensive play that is when it's more closer. To understand how we can use these two variables in order to optimize player engagement. Okay, thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I'm ready for answering any questions.